Well, good evening and welcome into the IdahoSports.com Girls State Basketball Tournament live preview show. We're going to be doing this for the next 90 minutes, give or take, and we're going to break down all of the state girls basketball tournaments from 5A all the way down to 1A D2. So thanks for being with us. We are broadcasting live tonight on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, the Facebook page, as well as Twitter. So we're all over the place. I'm Brandon Bainey. I'm going to be kind of the captain here. I'm going to be the traffic director, and I'm going to be weaving these cars in and out of traffic all night. Our first vehicle is a voice that 5A fans will recognize. Wayne Dzubak, you're going to be broadcasting the 5A Girls State Basketball Tournament for us this week on IdahoSports.com. Wayne, welcome in. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to it. It's show week. You know, it's time. You worked all season long for this, and now here you go. This is it. Comes down to these 3 days.
Absolutely. So we're going to spend about 15 minutes per classification. So we'll be on the 5A's till about 7:15. Then we'll go 4A's till 7:30, 3A till 7:45, 2A till 8, 1A D1 until 8:15, and we'll wrap up with 1A D2 until 8:30 and or closing time, I guess. Depends on how long those 1A D2 fans want to party for, right?
Exactly. If they want to comment, they can.
Definitely. And yes, I'm glad you brought that up because in terms of comments, fans can leave comments on our Twitter page or our Facebook page, our Twitter account, or the YouTube channel. If you want to ask us a question, if you want to give your favorite team or player a shout out, go ahead and do it. Just comment and we'll throw your comments up on the screen. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to mix it up with the fans a little bit tonight, Wayne. I'm excited about that as well.
Look forward to it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got a couple of tools, couple of toys in the toy box at our disposal. Let's start with, this time of year, Wayne, I transform. I'm no longer Brandon Bainey. I'm Brackets Bainey because I love looking at these brackets and breaking them down. So let's go ahead and put it up on the screen. It's going to lop off our faces a little bit, but that's okay. This is the 5A Girls State Basketball Bracket, Wayne. This is the first time ever that the bracket has been seeded according to the Max Preps rankings in regular season only. Mm-hmm. What jumps out to you right away when you look at this?
Not a lot jumps out at me, to be honest with you. I think it's a good bracket. Obviously it's the obvious bracket where you got Rocky Mountain, the A seed, against the number 1 seed, Lake City. So I like that. I think Post Falls and Boise, that's a game that I think is going to be just a barn burner. I really do. I think that's the game to watch on opening day. Those two, Post Falls and Boise, going at it.
Yeah, Post Falls, the 4 seed. They took 3rd place in the regular season up in the Inland Empire League with that gauntlet of a conference with Lake City, the number 1 overall seed, as well as Coeur d'Alene. Now, the notable exceptions to this bracket are that there's some really good teams sitting home. I think, Wayne, you and I both thought that Coeur d'Alene and maybe Eagle had a chance to get to state, but credit to Post Falls and Rocky Mountain for essentially taking those bids away.
Yeah, they did indeed. And I agree. Coeur d'Alene 19-5, Brandon, I think, or Bracket Bainey, whatever you want to be known as, but 19-5. They're a team I hate to not see there. They're a team that really were the only team that ruined the regular season for Timberline. They went 11-0, lost to Coeur d'Alene, then went 11-0 before district. So they were, 22-1. And before they lost to Boise in the district championship game, which is going to be interesting to see how Timberline bounces back from that loss last Friday night. It's going to be interesting to see if they can just kind of put it all back together again and get back on the right road.
Definitely. So let's pull up this bracket again. Lake City is the number 1 overall seed. This is a young Lake City team, Wayne. They don't have much in terms of seniors, which means they may be the number 1 seed next year and maybe even the year after that. They look awfully impressive. And Rocky Mountain is a team, I think, that's playing with house money at this point, right? They got to state when maybe people didn't expect them to. They're playing a very good team right off the bat, but, they're playing with house money, in my opinion.
Yeah, they kind of are. They played Lake City back on December 3rd, lost that game 71-49. And I don't see a whole lot of difference, sadly, that I really think Lake City's going to roll in this one. They've got 3 players that average in double figures. Lake City got off to a 12-0 start, did a great job. But Kendall Pickford, 10.7 points a game. You got Sophia Zufeld with 10.9 points a game. And you got Ember Reynolds, who averages 10 points a game. So when you got that kind of consistency on your team, that really bodes well for what we're talking about here with Lake City.
Yeah, and let's talk about the other team from the north, Post Falls. Despite, us thinking that, well, Coeur d'Alene probably will get that second spot over Post Falls, the Trojans get it, and because their league was so strong, Wayne, Post Falls not only gets in, but they get the number 4 seed on the Max Preps rankings. But boy, I don't know that this is a good reward. You've got Boise coming off of a district championship win over Timberline. The Braves seem to be, as they do always this time of year under Coach Kim Bridges, seem to be playing their best basketball at the right time.
Yeah, let's be honest, Brandon. This is kind of weird. You're the number 4 seed over the Boise Brave, the number 5 seed, and yet you had to win a play-in game against Hawaii. You had to go to Grangeville on Saturday to get that job done, which they did. Boise, meanwhile, 0-2 against Timberline during the regular season. Then they got to meet together, and it looked like really that Timberline was going to pull it out again. They got a lead. They got a lead of 36-33. And all of a sudden, Avery Hall comes out of nowhere. She had 55 steals on the year, none bigger than the last steal in the fourth quarter. She got that steal. She took it to the bucket when she stole it, got fouled, had a three-point play the old-fashioned way, tied it up at 36. And here's the amazing part of that game. Timberline did not score in the last 5 minutes of regulation or the 4 minutes of overtime. The last 9 minutes, they were held scoreless, and the final score was 44-36 in overtime, Boise. Boise's got a lot of great people. Avery Hollis, sophomore, she's getting it done this year. They got big 6'5" Ashley Banks down low. She averages 10 points a game, and they've got 3 players who shoot 36% or better from three-point land. 2 of them shoot in the 40% tile. So they can hit from the outside. They got Banks down low. I think it's going to be a tough road for Post Falls, but you know what? Post Falls has had that tough road. They've been on the road, and Grangeville, and now they got to come to Boise, 18-7. So I don't count Post Falls out at all.
Definitely.
And they've got Capri Sims, who averages 13 points a game.
For sure. Hey, we've got our first comment of the night, Wayne. It's a shout out to us, Sam Buffington. He lives up north in northern Idaho. Hello, Wayne and Brandon. Hey, Sam, longtime fan at IdahoSports.com.
Glad you're on board, buddy.
Yeah. And hey, the shout outs don't have to be for us necessarily. You can give a shout out to your favorite team or your favorite player. We're going to discuss players to watch here in just a moment. Or if you have a question for us as well, you certainly can.
I've always learned, Brandon, better to be shout out than shout at. So,
right. Yeah, no doubt. That's for sure. Okay, so back to this bracket. The one interesting thing I think you could see is if Post Falls ends up playing Rocky Mountain at some point on either side of the bracket, Brielle Magnuson played at Post Falls last year. Her family moved down to Meridian, and she now plays for Rocky Mountain. So that would be maybe an interesting little subplot. Let's break down this bottom half of the bracket, Wayne. And you mentioned it, Timberline comes in as the number 2 seed, pretty much the number 1 team most of the year in the polls. Not that carries a lot of weight when it gets to state time, but Timberline and Bora right away. Those are 2 of the top 3 teams from the Southern Idaho Conference. This is a very intriguing matchup as well.
Yeah, it is. Bora's gotten hot. They've won 7 of the last 8 games, so they've gotten hot when they did. Remember, Bora's the only team to beat Burley this year. Burley's 22-1, 4A, I know, but they crossed over there. But still, I've got a lot of respect for Burley, Amari Whiting, all those people and things like that, and you'll talk about them here in a moment. But the bottom line is that if you can beat a team like Burley, Bora can come up with a surprise, although I don't think they can surprise Timberline. I really don't. Bora's 18-6. The Wolves, like I mentioned, those 2 11-0 win streaks they had. They've got Sophia Glancy down low. The biggest thing is, can Timberline overcome that loss to Boise? And I think they can. I really do. I think they're going to bounce back. We talked about it on the air on Friday night. Is there any such thing as a good loss? If you're going to lose a game, should you have lost that district game? Because that just makes you hungrier. And I think they're going to get more hungry, Timberline. I think they're going to come out strong against the Bora Lions.
So we went to the Max Preps style of seeding these teams to try and avoid conference opponents playing each other right off the bat.
Yeah,
that's all we have on the bottom half of this bracket. In the other matchup, it's Thunder Ridge against Rigby. Now, I think it's easier to stomach if you go at least, hey, we had a protocol in place. It was based on a rating system, as opposed to, we just arbitrarily decided to predetermine these brackets. And so, Thunder Ridge and Rigby will have to play each other. This will be an interesting matchup also.
Yeah, it is. I like Thunder Ridge. They're 20-3. They got a gal named Aspen Caldwell who averages 21 points a game. She's an 80% free throw shooter, does a great job. Then they got two players who average 11 points a game, Kennedy Stenquist and Marley Spencer. So, they've got some consistency there. I like the attack they bring. Thunder Ridge, split with Rigby during the regular season, but then, Thunder Ridge won the district game 60-49. So they're coming off that. They feel pretty good about themselves. Rigby started the year 10-2. So Rigby's no slouch either. And I tell you what, Rigby wins the sponsor contest. They have more sponsors than Carter's got liver pills. I mean, everybody supports Rigby. And when you get that kind of support, you come to state, you get things done.
Yeah, that's you always have a good one-liner that makes me laugh, Wayne. That's for sure.
I'm sorry. That's what I'm here for.
Now, you've already dropped a couple of breadcrumbs in terms of players we should keep an eye on. Well, we've got here, Wayne, if you want to take a look, in fans, the 5A players to watch. And we picked one player from each team. Now, we could have easily put, 3 or 4 from each squad. We didn't have enough room on the screen. And this is just a jumping off point to talk about some of the star players. Ashley Banks from Boise, Jaden McNeil from Bora, Kendall Pickford from Lake City, Trinity Nichols from Post Falls, Cambry Barber from Rigby, Marley Reed, Rocky Mountain, Aspen Caldwell from Thunder Ridge. You just mentioned her. And then Sophie Glancy from Timberline. A good mix of guards and bigs, Wayne, this time of year. What do you prefer? A good point guard or a good big inside?
I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of these gals play, okay? Ashley Banks, Sophia Glancy. What Sophia Glancy has going for her, she's 6'2". Really, she is strong. She is tough. She posts up well. I like what she does, but she has a great supporting cast. She really does. Jaden McNeil from Bora, what a player she is. She is a solid player. Watch out for her. Ashley Banks is 6'5". She's got that outside shooting that Boise's known for, but Ashley Banks can make it happen. And again, you mentioned Aspen Caldwell from Thunder Ridge, 21 points a game. You don't average that unless you know how to hit the hoop. So they got a lot of good ones. I haven't seen Kendall Pickford. I'm looking forward to seeing them and Nichols play and Barber play from Rigby. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't seen Marty Reed play this year, so I'm looking forward to calling that game. But the bottom line is that there's that bunch of gals right there, all 8 that you see right there, are game breakers. They can make it happen.
I really do think when it gets to state, it's better to have a good post player than a good guard. I mean, it's nice to have both, certainly, but with a post player inside, that's something you can take to the bank 3 nights in a row. If you're more guard and perimeter oriented, you basically have to be hot, 3 nights in a row, which is tough to do. So, I look at an Ashley Banks from Boise, and I've said all year that I think she could really be a factor when it got to state. Obviously, I think the most talented post player is Glancy from Timberline. And so that'll be fascinating to watch, to compare with teams that are more guard oriented, like a Lake City. Kendall Pickford leads from the perimeter, and they've got a lot of good players out there. So contrasting styles for sure. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree. Sophia Glancy, to me, is probably the premier player on that list that you've got down there. Ashley Banks is 6'5". I mean, she stands out. She walks out onto the court. Ashley Banks is on the court. But I'm telling you right now, Sophia Glancy stands out. But I will tell you, Jaden McNeil from Bora is a player. She can make things happen. Watch out for her. So it's interesting. I don't see Bora upsetting Timberline. I really don't, because Timberline has too much of a supporting cast. I mean, it's just not a Glancy show. It's everybody. There's a lot of people there, and I could name them all, but I'm sure I'd miss somebody, so I don't want to do that. But wow, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a good state tournament. And what I think is really cool about this year, a little bit of a change, correct me if I'm wrong, but on Friday, you're going to have the 4A semifinals played at the Idaho Center and the 5A semifinals. I get to stay at the Idaho Center and do the 4A semifinals and the 5A semifinals. I'm really looking forward. I don't know who's going to win over 4A. I'll let you guys take care of that here in the next 15 minutes. But the bottom line is I'm kind of looking forward to seeing the Blackfoots and the Burleys if they make it. And I don't give it away, but Birdie Middleton, who put that matchup together in the first round? They should be ashamed of themselves.
It's a rematch from last year for sure. All right, I'll go out on a limb. I think it's going to be Lake City, Boise. I like in the first semi. I've got Thunder Ridge, Timberline in the second, and I will say chalk. I'll go Lake City and Timberline meeting in the championship, and I'll take the Wolves. I'll take Timberline. That's my official pick, Wayne.
Well, you know what? Here's the deal. I'm going right with you, and I'm not because I'm a copycat. It's because I think you copycatted me.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
We agree 100%. I think it's going to go by the seedings. I really do, except for the end when number 2 beats number 1. But you know what? When I say that, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea. I've not seen Lake City, and I've seen all the schools in the Treasure Valley. Have not seen Lake City, so I've got to hold my water a little bit and just be honest with you. I really think Timberline's a pretty good team, and Boise's a team that can surprise some folks.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Wayne Dzubak, we're looking forward to your coverage of the 5A girls state basketball tournament, all live and free on IdahoSports.com. Thanks for doing this tonight as well, Wayne. We appreciate it.
All right. Enjoy yourself, buddy, for the next hour and a half.
No doubt. No doubt. All right. I'm going to get some water. We're going to take a break. We'll come back with the 4A girls state basketball preview with Scott Burton. It's coming up next. You're watching the 2022 girls state basketball preview show here on IdahoSports.com.
Every day, people are choosing to buy Idaho. It's an easy choice. There are quality Idaho-grown companies for almost any product or service you need. Buying Idaho means keeping our money in Idaho, and that boosts our local economy. If everyone living here just spent $100 with Idaho businesses, we would generate over $9 million in tax revenue to help improve our state. Look for the logo and help support our Idaho businesses, because Buy Idaho builds Idaho.
Your job is planning, planting, harvesting, and to be on call 24 hours a day. Our job is to make sure you have the resources to keep doing it. D.L. Evans Bank. This is community banking.
If you're like me, you'll love the outdoors. There's adventures to have and new paths to explore. That's why you need to be focused and engaged when you're on the road. You have more footprints to leave and more trails to take. When it comes to distracted driving, well, that's just not going to happen on my Squatch. Don't let it happen on yours either. Wait a minute, what do you mean by outdoors?
The first step, the handholds, the new schools and the new everything. 12 years of teachers and meetings and paperwork. Nobody told you about the forms it takes to raise a kid. All the rides to here and there, the best friends and old friends, and parents of friends who you'll see in 5 years in the grocery store and still remembers that kid's mom. It's all flown by, and you did it. You did all the steps. And your last step is there next. That's why we created Next Steps, where all the post-high school options available to Idaho teens and their parents are in one place. Easy steps you can offer that help them find their future, whatever that may be.
Welcome back to the IdahoSports.com girls basketball state preview show. Brandon Bainey joined now by Scott Burton. Scotty B, what's going on, Scott?
Hey, what's happening? The only thing I've got
Idaho.
Hang on just a second. Okay, you got me?
Yes.
Okay. I had 15 windows open, watching Ram highlights, and just basically celebrating. I forgot we even had this because I was too busy celebrating a Super Bowl win, Brandon. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Not as good as you, obviously, but I'm doing just fine. This is our 4A girls state basketball preview. So all you 4A fans, we want to hear from you. If you've got a question for us, if you have a question about Scott's choice of a pro football team in life, if you've got a question or you want to give a shout out to your favorite team or player that's competing at the 4A state girls basketball tournament, drop us a comment. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and we'll throw your comment out on the screen. So let's get rolling, Scott. Let's just pull up the bracket, the 4A. Boy, there's some tantalizing matchups to kick things off here. Here's the 4A bracket, Scott. What jumps out to you right away?
Well, the thing that jumps out right away is this bracket is set up for a 1 versus 2. I mean, listening to Wayne talk moments ago, I mean, I echo the same sentiments. I mean, it's been Blackfoot and Burley all year long, and then everybody else a distant third. And the way the bracket's set up, that's what it looks like. But that's not to say that you don't have some, potential spoilers in there too. I mean, Blackfoot coming in undefeated, 22-0, the number 1 seed. They've got wins against Preston and Rigby and Thunder Ridge. a 5A team. They're just really, really good. And then you've got Burley, who comes in at 22-1, and their only loss is to 5A Bora by 1 point. And then you jump to the number 3 seed, which is Preston Indians. And Preston, they're coming in at 16-7. Now, if you go by records, you're taking a big drop here. But Preston, they had kind of a mid-season losing streak of about losing 5 of 6, and 3 of those were to Utah schools. One was to a Wyoming school, and the other was to 5A Highland. And to Blackfoot. Let's put that in there as well. So it really does set itself up for a 1 versus 2. But if you looked at, let's just go right down the list. Blackfoot taking on Bishop Kelly. Bishop Kelly, the number 8 seed, 18-6 out of the SIC. Don't let their record fool you either, because they lost 3 of their first 4 ball games. So 3 of their 6 losses came in the first 4 games. So they got it together, and 2 of those were to Meridian and Boise. The other one to Twin Falls. I mean, they had a 13-game winning streak, before losing to Middleton. Again, 3 losses for Bishop Kelly to Middleton. 6-point loss, a 24-point loss, and a 4-point loss. I mean, the thing about Bishop Kelly that makes it a tough matchup for Blackfoot, if Bishop Kelly can hang, is, they've got a bunch of kids that score. They do it by committee. They don't have that one star standout that you have to stop that most of these teams do have. They're led by Addie Heiler, who plays guard and post. She's a tough matchup. She averages 9 points a game, but they don't have anybody that averages in double figures. And so when you plan for a team like Bishop Kelly, it's really kind of planning for their style, planning for their scheme versus really planning for players, because Bishop Kelly just throws a bunch of athletes at you, and then one of them gets hot. Who do you stop? I mean, that has always been Bishop Kelly. But for Derek McCormick and his group, I really like the way that he's approaching this. They may not have the talent to hang with a team like Blackfoot, but their whole goal coming into this is to prove that they belong. They know they're the number 8 seed. They know they're going up against undefeated Blackfoot. So their goal, prove that they belong here. And when they play the game, anything can happen. You move on to the Skyline Mountain home game. That's the interesting one right there, because you've got, Skyline, who they won the play-in game to get there, which really kind of now starts to, I see your head nodding. Yeah. Here we go. You win the play-in game to get there, and all of a sudden you are the number 4 seed. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about Skyline. They're coming in with a record of 13-13. Right? A 500 record, but many of those losses are coming to 5A schools. Now, if you followed Skyline football, this was exactly what happened to their football team. And we had this conversation. Skyline never came in with the best record, but they came in with the body of work that really made them contenders. And look what happened in football, right? All right. So could this be the same thing that's happening, to a Skyline team that's coming in with an average record? And many of those losses are coming to 5A schools, and 4 of those to Blackfoot. Here's Blackfoot again coming back into play, right? And those losses came by an average about 20 points. But, for Skyline, they are led by freshman Shea Shippen, averaging 20 points a game. She's a leading scorer. She leads in steals and assists. You've got to stop her to have a chance, and so Mountain Home is really going to have to focus in on her. The next leading scorer is the sophomore Shippen, at 9 points a game. So, I mean, you talk about a nice basketball household they've got going on there. But it begins and ends with the freshman Shea Shippen.
For sure. Nick Garza, real quick, Scott, I want to give him a shout out because he's giving a shout out to Mountain Home. Go Mountain Home. And also a shout out from Angela Schulteis. Go Burley. We're going to talk all about Burley in just a second, but let's talk about Mountain Home and how they might match up, because they've been a team that's played in a similarly daunting league this year, with Burley kind of overshadowing them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They have been completely the little sister to Burley all season long. I mean, they come in with a record of 18-6, and 3 of those losses, half of those losses are to Burley. They've lost to them 3 times. And it really hasn't been that close. I mean, Burley has got Mountain Home's number so far. The others were Eagle and Capital to start the season. So, Mountain Home started 0-2. And then 3 losses coming to Burley by an average of 20 points. But the strength that Mountain Home brings, they bring an interesting style because they've got size. And when you get to a state tournament, if you don't have size and you don't have a presence in the paint, you are going to struggle, because we've seen all of these perimeter-oriented teams get to state and just fall flat because they travel to different gyms. I mean, defense, paint production, rebounding, those things travel. Offense doesn't, But Mountain Home's got a balance of both because they shoot a lot of three-pointers, a ton of three-pointers, which is odd because they've got a ton of size too. So Mountain Home can get you in 2 ways, and they're led by Maddie Keener and Sadie Drake. They are the 1-2 punch of this team. But Mountain Home's bringing all 5 starters back from last year's state team. So this is a team that's got some experience. They know how to kind of play in this big game. When we talk about that 1-2 punch, Keener averaging 15 points a game. She's right there on the doorstep of 1,000 points for her career. She can drive, she can get to the line, and she can get smoking hot from the perimeter. She hit 12 threes in a game. So this is somebody you got to pay attention to. And so if that 3 ball is falling, then all of a sudden you've got Sadie Drake on the inside. And Sadie Drake is averaging 12 points, 6 boards, a 54% field goal shooter. I mean, so they've got that inside-out game that can really cause problems for people if you don't know how to defend the paint. The problem that Mountain Home is going to have is if they get into any kind of foul trouble, because their depth isn't quite there. They lost Emily Harper, who was averaging 9 points and 12 boards right before the district tournament. And, and she was the X factor that was taking a lot of pressure off of Keener and Drake. And the fun facts about Mountain Home, I mean, this is a team that led the 4A in scoring, at 57 points a game, and only gave up 41 points. And that's 7th best in 4A. They're averaging over 10 steals per game. And you factor in, the unforced turnovers that a team makes. You play Mountain Home, you're giving up into the 20s on turnovers. And so Mountain Home's got a really interesting recipe to play spoiler. And they've got a veteran coach as well, and Brent Keener in his 15th season. So I am interested in that 4 versus 5.
Yeah, well, we're getting some comments from the fans on this, Scott. We've got Kelly Need. She said, "Didn't you see the play-in game? Sienna Taylor hit 7 threes. It's not just the ship-ins, although they are great." And that,
yes,
I wanted to mention for Skyline, the biggest story for the Grizz, Scott, is their best player, Maddie Olson, who committed to Montana State University, has not played a single minute this year because of an injury she suffered in soccer. And just think of where Skyline could be with her. I mean, they're doing great without her, but you would love to see her out there. She is a dynamic scorer. Jack Dooley hops on and says Harper is healthy. Maybe a little breaking news here on the yes. So I don't maybe a little insider.
That's the information I'm getting out of Mountain Home as of this morning doesn't indicate that.
Okay. Well,
so this will be interesting to see if somebody's playing a little bit close to the best.
Yeah.
But not to take anything away from Skyline and their players, we just can't mention everybody, or we're going to run into a 30-minute thing. But you're absolutely right. 7 threes in that game was huge, and that's the kind of play that's going to take the pressure, off of the ship-ins. And if you can get those role players to step up, then you've got something cooking, because those are the players you don't plan for.
Definitely. Let's take a look real quick at our 4A players to watch. We picked one from each team. And again, this is just a starting point. Addie Heiler from Bishop Kelly, you already mentioned. Hadley Humphreys, the great center from Blackfoot. We're going to talk about Amari Whiting of Burley and Cassidy Fried of Middleton in just a second. Sadie Drake, the great post from Mountain Home. Riley Ward of Preston. Aaliyah Strock of Sandpoint, and Shay Shippen of Skyline, which we already talked about. Let's quickly go over this bottom half of the bracket, Scott. And I wanted to start with the 2 and 7. Burley and Middleton will play for the second year in a row. Last year, Middleton got to state thinking, okay, we've got a chance to compete for the championship, and they got knocked out by Burley right away. Now it's the opposite. Now it's Burley coming in with the aspirations and Middleton trying to knock them off.
Yeah, the thing about Middleton coming in at number 7, don't let that record fool you, or that seed fool you, rather. They're 18-6. They started the season 0-3. Right? So all 6 of their losses this year came before Christmas. So you want to talk about a team that's playing some of their best basketball right now? It's Middleton. And don't tell me they don't remember last year. Whether you were there or not as a player, you can bet that's been drilled into their head. They went undefeated in conference last year, came out and went 2-0 at state, opened up with Burley. So here we go again. But Middleton is one of those sneaky hot teams right now. Cassidy Freed, Peyton Hymas, the 1-2 punch for them. But they've also got solid big play. Robin Flowers, she's another fun player to watch. She is super fast. She brings a speed element to the game. She may be the fastest player on the floor when she steps onto the floor. She's got a great first step on the drive, a nice little step back jumper as well. So this Middleton team, they've got some players. The thing that they're going to have to be careful about is sometimes if you kind of get up in their face, they're forced to play fast. And if they're forced to play fast, sometimes they don't make the best decisions. So that's going to be kind of the interesting thing that Mountain Home is going to do. Can they bring some pressure that's going to force this Middleton Viking team to turn the ball over? But I really like this matchup as well because, if you're one of those fans or whatever that's looking at seeds alone, don't. Because granted, you got Blackfoot and Burley, the clear 1s and 2s, but everybody else in there, man, it could be anybody that's winning these games.
Yep, for sure. And Logan, our Middleton resident, just told me that it's Cassidy Freed. I specifically asked him this earlier, and he gave me the wrong info. So thanks, Logan. Okay.
Yeah, go, bud.
Preston Sandpoint, super quick. I think Sandpoint's Max Preps ranking got boosted because they played all of those great 5A teams like Coeur d'Alene, Lake City, and Post Falls. Preston comes in, I think, as a dark horse to challenge for the state title. They've got a great point guard in Ryrie Ward. I think it all comes down to the posts, occasion nap, especially inside.
Yeah, it does. And that's the thing that Sandpoint doesn't have. I mean, you get the team out of the north. I'll make this quick because I know we have to talk about Blackfoot still, but you get this team out of the north, you never know what you're going to get because they are playing Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Lake City. And they come in with that number 6 seed, the 12-8 record, but that is always misleading. But the thing about Sandpoint is that this is a team that would, found themselves relevant because they win that first game the last 2 years. They just don't have the offensive scoring to get them to that next level, and they've struggled with that. And they're struggling with that this year is the point production, and it's a nice little segue into a shot clock argument because this is a team that wants the shot clock because they need to slow it down and play some defense. And that's what they're going to have to do to advance. They're not very big. They're pretty young, but they're going to have their hands full right out of the gate. But you never know what you get with Sandpoint out of the north.
For sure. And then, let's talk about Blackfoot, the number 1 overall seed. Rami Odom won the title in her first year as head coach last year. They pretty much bring back the same crew to run it back. Hadley Humphreys inside, Izzy RV. You've got SB Vergara. I mean, the list goes on and on of all these great players.
They've really got every piece of the puzzle that you could ask for. That you talk about their post play. Just their all-star player and Hadley. She is just a monster. But you can't stop talking about just that because, they bring in another athletic post in Kiana Wright, who averages 14 points and 7 boards. And then, I've got Izzy RV, the senior point guard, who is one of our better ball handlers, savvy as heck, averaging 7 points and almost 5 assists a game, lockdown defender. So she is going to draw the number 1 offensive player that Blackfoot is going to play. And if you look at this team, their only weakness is going to be, will they get complacent? I mean, that is it. Because like you said, they're bringing back this state title team. And if they think they can just show up and cruise, they're going to be in for a rude awakening. But I just don't think that's going to be the case with Blackfoot. They've got the recipe for a state title: post play, defense, rebounding, a point guard. I mean, what else do you need? And that's why Blackfoot's undefeated and a clear number 1 favorite to win this tournament. So we'll see what the other teams decide to do against them. Because it's Blackfoot's on paper to lose.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that and listen to it. Scott Burton will have the play-by-play for all of the 4A state tournament action live and totally free of charge on IdahoSports.com. Scott, thank you for doing this tonight. You are very insightful.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, the 3A preview coming up next, right after this break. You're watching the 2022 Girls State Basketball Tournament preview special on IdahoSports.com.
The first step, the handholds, the new schools and the new everything. 12 years of teachers and meetings and paperwork. Nobody told you about the forms it takes to raise a kid. All the rides to here and there, the best friends and old friends and parents of friends who you'll see in 5 years in the grocery store and still remembers that kid's mom. It's all flown by and you did it. You did all the steps. And your last step is there next. That's why we created Next Steps, where all the post-high school options available to Idaho teens and their parents are in one place. Easy steps you can offer that help them find their future, whatever that may be.
Welcome back to the IdahoSports.com State Girls Basketball Preview Special. Time to move on to the 3As, and let's bring in Glenn Jones. He's going to be broadcasting the 3A State Tournament for us at IdahoSports.com, along with Lance Taylor. Glenn, good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. Hey, big thanks to all the 3A fans that hung around for the 4A conversation went a little long. I know you guys are all ready for us to break down this 3A field. Friendly reminder, we are streaming this live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, as well as our Twitter account. If you have a question for us or you want to give your favorite team or player a shout out, you can leave a comment and we'll throw it up on the screen. We want to hear from the fans. We want to know what the fans are talking about ahead of this state tournament. Glenn, let's just put the 3A bracket up on the screen, and you got number 1 Sugar Salem against number 8 Filer. The 4-5 is Weiser against Parma. Teton, the 3 seed, against Fruitland, the 6, and Snake River, the 2 seed, will play Kellogg, the 7 seed. First year it's seeded according to Max Prep's rankings, which has led to some district champions like Kellogg being seeded very low and other teams that finished in the middle of their conference being seeded higher. What stands out to you right away, though, Glenn?
Well, first of all, we got some spicy matchups here. You just mentioned Kellogg, the champion, district champion, and they're seated pretty low. They have a lot of heart, and they can surprise some people. They're taking on Snake River. On paper, may not be the best matchup, but this Kellogg team has a ton of heart. And another one that I'm looking forward to is the Teton-Fruitland game. Both these teams, the number 3 seed Teton and number 6 seed Fruitland, both of these guys can make some noise. And if one of those guys can win, that's going to be a tough game. That's my game to watch. You can ride momentum in the state tournament better than any other time during the league. If you get hot and if you get your fans behind you and you get some confidence going, you can take on Goliath and beat them.
Well, speaking of Goliath, Kellogg dethroned the Goliath of the North, Timberlake, right? This is the first time, I think, since 2012 or 13 that Timberlake is not participating at state, because not only did Kellogg knock off Timberlake for the IML title, but then Weiser defeated Timberlake in the play-in game. And so Weiser becomes the 3rd team from the Snake River Valley Conference to make it to state. And how about this? They had to win the play-in game. They get seated ahead of Parma, which played for the championship, Glenn.
Yes, and Weiser held Timberlake to 23 points in that play-in game. Brandon, 23 points. My goodness, that's you talk about riding some momentum going into the state playoffs. Weiser has to be just super elated getting in there, and they're in a tough league with both Parma and Fruitland, having those teams in common that they've seen throughout the season. Then going to the play-in game up north, taking on Timberlake, like you said, they've been in the mix for first place, second place, third place for better part of 10 years. Now they're gone. So it opens up some pretty good questions as to what's going to happen as we get towards Saturday.
For sure. Let's bring you our 3A players to watch. We selected a player from each team. It's not an all-inclusive list. I mean, we could have put 30 players easily up on the screen, but we picked one from each team as just sort of a jump-off point. And if there's a player that you want to give a shout-out to that's not on this list, by all means, please do so in the comments. Lexi Monson of Filer, great all-around athlete in terms of speed. I'm not sure there's too many that can match her in terms of pure speed in the open floor. Gracie Huff, such a great post player for Fruitland. She had the game-winning basket when they played Parma the first time this year, came as time expired. She's a great force down low. So is Haley Cheney from Kellogg. She is a legit center for that Wildcats team. Austin Harris from Parma. We've heard her name for a couple of years. She's a tremendous athlete. Riley Edlifson, the great point guard that leads this Snake River attack. She's a young one, just a sophomore. Kennedy Gillette is Sugar Salem's leading scorer, only a junior, but just like their volleyball team, they are very deep, very talented. Kinley Brown of Teton has been a leader and a captain of that team this year. And Toby Neuer, the point guard for Weiser as well. So on this list, Glenn, we've got a good mix of post players along with point guards. Who stands out to you?
Well, the ones that stand out right off the bat is Kennedy Gillette from Sugar Salem. And this young lady does just about everything, only a junior. She's scoring over 14 points per game, has almost 3 rebounds, 2 steals, a couple of assists per game. So she has an all-around game, and she has a great supporting cast, so she doesn't have to do it alone, and that's one of the most important things. A couple others that stand out, that Gracie Huff, man, she started out game 1 scoring about almost 20 points in her first game, and she has not let up. She is a force to be had, and I like the post matchups that are going on in this particular bracket, this 3A bracket. The post play is so critical. It shows up in lots of different things. You can alter somebody's shot. You don't have to block it, but you can alter their shot, which makes them miss. Rebounds are always important, especially when we get to this part of the year. If you can pull down offensive rebounds and you have post play that can do that and pull down offensive rebounds and give your team second and third chances to score, it just pays off in spades a little bit later on. So those are a couple of them I'm looking at, and I'd like to see how Riley is going to do for Snake River, being just a sophomore and coming into this big stage. Snake River doesn't just rely on her, but as a sophomore, she's definitely a team leader, and she's going to have to step up her game, even though Snake River, a consensus number 2 in both the coaches and the media poll throughout the year. It's going to take everybody. It's going to take a team effort here to win this thing.
For sure, and no team more deep and versatile than Sugar Salem. Here's Kelly Need. Shout out to the Need sisters from Sugar Salem. That's Natalia, the senior, Monica, the freshman. I mean, they've got Haley Harris, who's outstanding, Olivia Crapo. I mean, this is a Sugar Salem team. We saw them run the table in volleyball, trying to do the same in girls basketball. Can anybody knock the Diggers off? They come in as the consensus number 1 team, Glenn. I'll put that bracket back up on the screen, and you tell me which team you think has the best chance of maybe dethroning Sugar Salem.
Well, if you look at paper, it's got to be Snake River has the best chance. First of all, they're in the opposite bracket, so they have the best chance of getting through there without meeting them. I mean, Sugar Salem's been annihilating everybody they played, and they do it so well because they have a junior and senior mix with lots of experience and state experience. They're going to be tough. But I look at Sugar Salem, and then keep your eye on either Teton, or I really like Kellogg. I like the way that this team is family oriented. I like the way that Jenna Nearing is coaching the team. They got some pretty good players. They have some girls that already are going on and playing at the collegiate level. Not necessarily basketball, but if you're going on at the collegiate level in volleyball or track or softball or whatever it is, it translates over to basketball because you're dealing with an athlete. And, when you get into the state tournament, one of the great things about the state tournament is even though you keep playing, you got that mindset of one and done. If you lose one game, you're out of the mix for the championship. So there is no tomorrow. Sometimes you can have teams, especially on the outside. I remember Scott and Wayne were talking about that a little bit earlier. Sometimes the outside game, your guards can come up a little dry when they're in a different gym or they're on the road, they're staying in a hotel, and now the outside game doesn't necessarily fall into what you want it to, you can have some trouble. But keep an eye on Teton. I really like the number 7 seed Kellogg. They got to get by a tough one, Snake River first, but keep your eye on them. And don't forget about Weiser. Knocking off Timberlake is no small deal. And this is really going to be a great tournament. I think Sugar Salem's going to waltz through their bracket. I really do. I think they have the complete team. They have all the experience. I think they're the most experienced team in the bracket. When you look at upperclassmen and lowerclassmen, there's a couple other teams that are very, very, very young. A lot of sophomores, and there's a ton of freshmen that are going to be playing in this tournament as well. But I think Sugar Salem's going to go through their bracket. And the other one, I think it's going to be, Teton has a chance. Kellogg has a chance. Don't even count out Fruitland. They had a pretty good run this year. So there's going to be some tough games.
For sure. Cavi Branham leaving a comment for us. Let's get it, Diggers. Yeah, I know the fans in Sugar City are excited. I've got Sugar Salem getting to the championship on their side. I've got a 6 and a 7 in the semifinal on the other side. I've got Fruitland against Kellogg, and I'm with you, Glenn. I like Kellogg to get to the championship, and I think that would be a fun matchup with Sugar, but I think I'll lean the Diggers there. But I think Kellogg as a 7 seed is very underseeded and could potentially get on a dark horse run. So, Glenn, you're going to be broadcasting the 3A tournament. We're looking forward to your coverage live and free on IdahoSports.com. Thanks for doing this tonight as well. We really appreciate it.
Hey, Brandon, I got one more shout out.
Okay, go for it.
I got a shout out right here, baby. This is for Scott Burton and my brother, who's going to do the 1A D2 cast here in a little bit. We got the LA Rams, baby. We'll be wearing this hat all weekend long.
Yeah. All right. That's yes. The Ram train continues in just a moment.
I'm so jealous that Scott was there and I was watching on TV.
Yes, that's a story we'll get when we all meet up in Boise for state starting on Thursday. So, all right, Glenn Jones, thanks for stopping by. The 2A preview is coming your way next with Paul Kingsbury. Right after this break, you're watching the 2022 IdahoSports.com Girls State Basketball Preview Special. We'll be back right after this.
Every day, people are choosing to buy Idaho. It's an easy choice. There are quality Idaho-grown companies for almost any product or service you need. Buying Idaho means keeping our money in Idaho, and that boosts our local economy. If everyone living here just spent $100 with Idaho businesses, we would generate over $9 million in tax revenue to help improve our state. Look for the logo and help support our Idaho businesses, because Buy Idaho builds Idaho.
Welcome back to the 2022 IdahoSports.com Girls State Basketball Preview Special. Brandon Bainey joined now by Paul Kingsbury. You will be broadcasting the 2A Girls State Basketball Tournament. Excited.
Yep, it's going to be a blast. It's about half a mile away from my house here in Kuna, so I'll be able to sleep in a little bit, get back. Don't have to drive everywhere. It's going to be kind of nice.
Yeah, that's going to be so much fun. Let's take a look at this 2A bracket. Let's dive into it. Number 1, Grangeville. Hey, and real quick, too, you can leave comments. We're streaming this live on IdahoSports.com's Twitter account, our Facebook page, as well as our YouTube channel. If there's a player or a team that you want to give a shout out to, just leave it in the comments. We'll throw it up on the screen. For example, Douglas Larson, shout out to Lexi Cole. Go Ryrie. Yes, Ryrie and Girls State just seems to go hand in hand. Scott Burton, go Rams. Yeah, the LA Rams, that ship has sailed. We're talking now Girls State basketball, Scott. So if you could just get out of the chat, that'd be great. Allie Wilson says, let's go Mustangs, the Melba Mustangs. Yes. We want to hear from all the 2A fans. Give your favorite player, give your favorite team a shout out. Let's take a look at this bracket. Grangeville comes in as the number 1 seed. They'll play number 8 Declo. The 4-5 is Aberdeen and Ryrie. Coal Valley Christian, despite being the top-ranked team in the media and coaches polls most of the year, gets the 3 seed. They'll play 6th-seeded Soda Springs, and it's number 2 Melba against number 7 North Fremont. What jumps out to you right away, Paul?
Well, first thing that jumps out is that it's going to be a pretty good tournament. I mean, you look at Grangeville obviously coming in, and Michelle Barger, the head coach there, 20 plus years she's been coaching. This is her, she runs all the youth programs there. She's got everybody clicking. I mean, it's just everybody's running on all cylinders, so to speak. I mean, you've got, Vanderwall, the workhorse, 3-time all-conference player, about 9 points a game. LaFay, the sixth man, and guess what? She's a freshman coming off with about 5 points a game. So they've got a lot of different weapons. And so going up against, a Declo team, number 8 coming in, Declo, Ashley Baker in her 4th season, good coach, young team, 4 seniors, no juniors, 7 sophomores, couple freshmen, led by a sophomore, Mallory with 11 points a game, and then senior Macy Larson, about 7.5 points a game. They're going to have to step up, and they're going to have to step up big. One thing about Declo's record at 10 and 12, a little bit, you can look at it and go 10 and 12, what's going on? Well, they're in that, 3-team conference there. And so they have to play out of conference quite a bit. And so they play a lot of 1A through 3A. And a lot of those teams on their schedule, they're at state. I mean, they're really good teams they played. And so as a young team, it's a good experience building year for them. And coming into the state tournament with, welcome to the state tournament. Congratulations. Here's Grangeville. That's rough. That's going to be rough.
Yeah, Grangeville loaded for bear. Pete Three Legs says, let's go Lady Bulldogs. Nice. And Karsten Volkers. Shout out to Braden Volkers. Let's talk about Grangeville, the 1 seed. I think they have a good matchup with Declo, and then you've got the 2 and 3 seeds. They're from the same conference, Melba and Coal Valley Christian. Coal Valley won the matchups in the regular season, but it was Melba who got the win at districts 46-34. And oh, by the way, Coal Valley beat the number 1 seed Grangeville 42-28 back on December 4th. So Coal Valley's going, hey, we beat Grangeville and Melba 2 out of 3 times. How are we ranked 3rd below those 2 teams? That's another conversation for another day. But I will say last year, it was the reverse, where Melba had the regular season success, if I'm remembering this correctly, and Melba fans let me know, but it was Melba who had the success in the regular season. Coal Valley was the team that got the best of them at districts, but that put Melba into a nice situation in the bracket where they got on a run and got all the way to the championship.
Right. And, last year, Melba, Kate Clark, State Player of the Year, that's a pretty good asset to have for you. This year, 19-3, picking up right where they left off. Sister Kendall, she's a junior, 12 points a game, leading the team. They're kind of a young team as well. Got 4 playing seniors, 5 juniors, 3 sophomores, and they're averaging 51 points a game. So Melba can put on the points, holding the opponents to 31 points a game, so they can, 1, play really good offense, 2, play really good defense. So Melba's, coming in at number 2 seed. They're going to be a very, very tough team to beat.
Yeah, we're getting some more comments here. Kyle Burtonshaw says, killing it, Paul. ESPN calling you yet?
Oh, Kyle.
Also from our 3A discussion, Mark Edlifson, thank you for picking Kellogg. Riley heard every word. Go Snake River. Hey, I really do think, Snake River and Kellogg, whoever wins that first round game gets to the championship. I just think Kellogg, I like their size, and Snake River's still a young team, but I'm glad that Riley heard every word. And if that's the motivation that Snake River needs, I'm glad to provide it. So I love this, Paul. I love interacting with the fans, because if I'm wrong, I'll wear it. I'll come back and wear it for sure.
Right.
Definitely.
You're the purveyor of bulletin board material is what they call that.
I try to. And here's Coach Barger. Go Bulldogs. Grangeville, Coach Barger, take it all the way.
Tell you what, I emailed all the coaches, and I got great responses from all the coaches. But Michelle, she gave me great information. I mean, I could use that information she gave me to just talk the entire game and not even do play-by-play. It's great. It was fantastic. It's good stuff.
For sure. Sandy Odell, 19-3. Let's go Mustangs. Melba Mustangs. Here's another one for Ryrie. Cheryl Cole says, let's go Ryrie Bulldogs. Yeah, let's talk about Ryrie. They find themselves in an interesting matchup. I think the most interesting first round matchup, that 4-5. They will play Aberdeen. Aberdeen lost to Soda Springs twice in the regular season, lost to them in the first game at districts, and then beat them 2 times in a row to win the district title. Aberdeen's got the size. Ryrie's got the athletes. What do you think, Paul?
And that's exactly right. The athletes can sometimes counteract the size. You've got Ortiz, 10 points a game. She's a 3-point shooter. So if Ortiz for Aberdeen gets hot, watch out. She hits 2 to 3 a game, but when you get to state, you can get the shooter's touch and you can just go off. So she does that. Be careful. They're averaging 53 points a game. Ryrie's at 52. So, pretty equal offenses on that side. Lincoln Driscoll, I've been told never to trust a man with a last name for a first name, but I think I like Lincoln Driscoll. Second year there. But the big headline with Aberdeen is they haven't been to state since 2004. I mean, you were like in junior high, I think, in 2004, weren't you?
Yeah, freshman.
Freshman.
Yep.
So 18 years, and the Tigers are back. So that's cool no matter what. And they actually have a player on the team, Ellie Watson, who made the statewide all-star teams. The rosters got announced yesterday, so she's on there. Congratulations to her. About 18 points a game. So they've got scores. A lot of leadership in their seniors. But Ryrie, the same thing. They've got size. You look at Maggie Ball, 6 feet. And when you get into especially the 2A, and I can say that I'm not making, I'm not bagging on the 2As. They're the smaller classification. I'm from a 2A school. You get size, especially when you get to the state tournament. You have to have size because all the other teams that make state also have size. So the teams that, 1, have the size and 2, know how to use it, they tend to do really well. And so Ryrie coming in with that firepower, 8 points a game, 8 rebounds a game. But the big thing with Ball is about 3.5 blocks per game. So she knows how to play down in the paint on defense, turns back around, and she can play great offense. And there's a lot of good leadership there. They're well balanced, 6 seniors, 6 juniors. So there's a lot of experience coming off the bench as well as starting. So that Ryrie team, they're coming in 19-3, Aberdeen 20-5. It could be the best game of the day on Thursday.
For sure. Here's Douglas Larson. Maggie's a nightmare. 10 blocks in 1 game at districts. That's just insane, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's awesome. I love seeing it. I love defense. I'm a defense guy.
Yeah.
And so when I'm watching games, it's always fun to watch the high scores, but I'm always looking away, off ball and looking at the defense and see how the players are playing away from the basketball. And so I'm really excited for this tournament. There's a lot of great defenses coming into this 2A tournament this week.
For sure. Here's another shout out from Caitlin Wilson. Go Kaylee Wilson. That's a Melba Mustang. Let's show you our 2A players to watch. And again, we picked 1 from each team, and this is just a jumping off point. We could put 20, 25 players on the screen easily. Yeah. But here is our 2A players to watch. And right away, it starts with some star power. Ellie Watson from Aberdeen. We just talked about her. Ellie Fraz from Cole Valley. Macy Larson of Declo. Camden Barger, the great point guard for Grangeville. Hallie Arnold from Melba. And it was really tough to pick 1 player from Melba, let me tell you. Gracie Litton of North Fremont. Maggie Ball from Ryrie, we just talked about. And Janetti Garbett, such a smooth ball handler for Soda Springs. So those are just a couple of players to watch. And again, if your favorite player didn't make our list, give them a shout out in the comments and we'll gladly put it up on the screen. We did have another comment come in, Paul. Nice. Melba and Cole may meet on the winners or the losers side. Let's pull up that bracket again, because that's a big story that Cole Valley and Melba are on the same side of the bracket. We haven't really talked about the Chargers yet. Matt Beglinger does a great job with that program.
Yeah.
They have, I think, the worst draw in the first round. They were pretty much the number 1 team in 2A basketball all year. And what's their reward? A Soda Springs team that got underseeded because of a very difficult out-of-conference schedule. And this is going to be a gauntlet for Cole Valley right out of the gates. This is a Soda Springs team that makes a living at state.
Right. I mean, at first glance, if you don't, if you're just new coming in, you look at Soda Springs and go, what are you talking about, Brandon? They're 14-12. Well, they're 8-0 in conference. And it's Soda Springs, for crying out loud. Just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on since 2003, when you were an 8th grader, if I got that right.
Yes.
Since then, they've been district champions 6 times, runner-up 4 times, okay, including this year. Then from there, they were 3-peat champions, 2018 to 2020, second place 5 times, third place 4 times, consolation last year. This is a Soda Springs team that is not only at state, but they bring home trophies. And so it doesn't matter what the numbers are next to their team name, they're dangerous. And coming in, averaging 43, giving up 39, that's probably a little more even than head coach Wade Schvanevelt would like to see. But with 2 seniors, 4 juniors, 3 sophomores, 2 freshmen, it's a pretty young team coming in. But Janetti Garbett, 10 points. And I just want to say, Janetti, my wife's middle name is Janetti, spelled different, but it's a combination of 2 names, and I've never heard it anywhere else. And I saw this, and I'm like, hey, a Janetti. That's kind of cool. I like it. But you're looking at a team that knows how to play in big games. I mean, they've got experience in district tournament games and state tournament games and whatnot. And even though, district didn't turn out quite how they planned, they're coming in and they're playing, like you said, a very tough Coal Valley team. So stacked top to bottom. Thursday is going to be a great day to watch basketball in the 2A ranks.
Yeah, most scary about Soda Springs, they start 5 underclassmen, Paul. So they could be back in the mix again next year. Real quick on this 2A bracket, I like Grangeville and Ryrie in one semi. I've got Coal Valley and Melba. I'll go chalk in the other, but I think that Soda Springs. If Soda Springs won that game, it wouldn't shock me. And I've got Grangeville and Coal Valley in the title.
Grangeville and Coal Valley in the title.
Yep.
Yeah.
The fans are going to hate me for that.
Yep. I am not going to give my predictions because I'm going to be sitting in the stands at CUNA. And I've done it before where I gave predictions and then the whole game I'm just getting hit by, dirty glares and, people sending their children up to smack me. And it gets rough. It's terrible. For
sure. Lauren Jensen is going to be broadcasting, kind of floating from tournament to tournament for IdahoSports.com. Soda Springs is my dark horse. Yeah, they definitely are a lot better than the 6th seed. That's for sure. So, yeah. All right. Paul, you'll be on the coverage for the 2A state tournament live on IdahoSports.com. Free to listen. It's going to be a lot of fun. Rest up because I know you've got to carry a big load here.
That's all right. It comes with the territory. Been doing it for a while, and thankfully, caffeine was discovered many years ago, and that really fuels IdahoSports.com. It always has. Definitely
fueled by caffeine. All right, that's the 2A preview. We're going to take a break. Come back with the 1A D1 breakdown with Logan Green. He is standing by, waiting to break down the bracket. So hang around. We'll be right back on IdahoSports.com.
If you're like me, you love the outdoors. There's adventures to have and new paths to explore. That's why you need to be focused and engaged when you're on the road. You have more footprints to leave and more trails to take. When it comes to distracted driving, well, that's just not going to happen on my Squatch. Don't let it happen on yours either. Wait a minute, what do you mean by outdoors?
Well, Brandon Bainey indoors along with Logan Green here on the 2022 IdahoSports.com Girls State Basketball Preview Special, coming to you live on the IdahoSports.com Facebook page, YouTube channel, and our Twitter account. So as we're talking about the 1A D1 Girls State Basketball Tournament, you want to give your favorite team, your favorite player a shout out, you want to call us out for something dumb we said, or you want to ask us a question, bring it on. Leave a comment. We'll throw it up on the screen. Logan, what's going on? How you doing?
Oh, not much. And I'm sure I'll say something dumb or something wrong. And you know what? That's fine. That I will make a mistake. And it's funny. We always do these, bracket challenges when it comes around to March Madness time, and my wife doesn't watch a lick of sports, and she beats me every year. So, what do we know, right? At the end of the day, it's why it's played on the court.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. So, Logan, you and I are going to be broadcasting this tournament on IdahoSports.com. Let's get a look at this bracket here. Lapwai comes in as the number 1 seed. They will play number 8 Liberty Charter. The 4 and 5 is a pair of conference rivals, Raft River and Oakley. Boy, those two teams sure know each other well. Big rivals there. Prairie, the 3 seed, will play Notice, the 6, and it's Butte County, undefeated, and the number 2 seed overall, taking on the 7th seed, Wallace. From a 10,000-foot view here, Logan, I think it's Lapwai and Prairie, the traditional powers up north. Lapwai has 10 titles in school history. Prairie has 9. I believe those are the 2 most in Idaho history for girls basketball. And then you've got Butte County undefeated and a big target that says hit the pinata right here. But what do you think of this field?
Man, it's tough. I mean, Lapwai is Lapwai, right? They are going to be in the mix, and I see them going to the state championship again. I mean, no disrespect to Liberty Charter, Raft River, and Oakley. It's kind of an interesting story that Raft River and Oakley got there, and we'll hit on that in a little bit. But man, Lapwai just so good, so fast. They don't rebuild; they just reload. Right, every year, it doesn't matter who they lose, who the seniors are on this team. They just continue to grow. They get better. The underclass men come up and they just take over, and they end up doing just as well as their the players that were in there before. And I think it's going to be the same this year for them. I think that they're going to roll their way into that title game. And like you said, I think you're going to, the 5 o'clock game between Butte County and Prairie and Notice on Thursday, I'll put money on it. Pirates win that game, no doubt. The Pirates take it.
Okay,
it's you're not picking up my joke, Brandon. It's Pirates and Pirates. So of course the Pirates are going to win.
I was trying to humor you a little bit.
You're supposed to pick up on that, man. Now I look bad. I look bad in front of all. Anyways,
this is the fifth. This is the fifth one of these I've done, Logan.
Anyways, yeah. So Pirates will win that game. Don't know which one, but I really think that that we're going to see Prairie meet up in the second round with Butte County. But I would tell you, Wallace, they are a sneaky team that I think is going to give Butte County fits. Wallace had a couple losses this year. They lost one game to Lakeside in conference, but I tell you, they hung with Kellogg, who you guys were talking earlier about, thinking Kellogg was going to even make a run to the state title. And I kind of agree with you on that you're going to see Kellogg make a run at the 3A level. And that's a team, that Wallace team, hung with Kellogg in those two games they played against each other. So they can play up and they can play tough when they play up. And so I think you might see them in this tournament really just be a little bit pesky. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. I don't know if they'll beat Butte County, but I think they'll be very problematic for them. And it'll be a tougher it might be the toughest 2-7 game that we see across the whole state on Thursday night.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun matchup. I actually just talked to Wallace's coach, Nicole Farkas, earlier this morning, and she said, I asked the girls in practice yesterday, I said, what's our number one goal? What's your number one goal to go down there? And they said to have fun, because this is the first time Wallace has been to state in several years. And then she said, what's the second goal? And they said to compete as hard as we can. And they said, whether we win or lose, if we do those two things, we're going to walk away feeling pretty good about it. I agree. Wallace is a team that's very underrated. They played that loss to Lakeside, Logan. They were down by like 17 or 18 points at one point, and they came back in the second half and ended up losing by 1. But that comeback really has fueled this team. Even though they lost that conference game, that comeback instilled that belief in them that they can compete with anybody. So that was really enjoyable to talk to her. It's funny talking to all these coaches, Butte County's coach, Carla Hanson, and Coach Mater up at Prairie. I said, describe your style. And they said, well, we're kind of up-tempo, and we're up-tempo mostly because that's how Lapwai plays. And they've kind of forced us to adapt that, because to beat the best, to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Got to beat them, right.
Yeah, so it's funny to see all these teams shifting their style to try and match the run and gun offense of Lapwai.
Yeah, I mean, Lapwai, you look back 2 years ago, we had a Prairie Lapwai state championship game. I actually was there doing that game 2 years ago for a state championship. And it's a very well could be those two meeting again in the state championship. And, when a team plays another team consistently year in and year out, even if they've won, you can throw out the regular season. All right. So if we do see a Prairie Lapwai state championship, let's throw it all out the door. They were close regular season matchups. The only team that Prairie has lost to this season is Lapwai and Grangeville, 2 1 seeds in this tournament. That's it.
Yeah.
So you're looking, and they're a 3 seed, right?
Yes.
They're in the 3 spot. I think that the semifinals are going to be fantastic in this bracket. And you look up a little bit, if we look at that Raft River Oakley matchup, That's one where the number 1 seed from the conference is not here, right? The number 1 seed in the conference going into districts was Murtaugh. They were both able to claw their way out of there. Raft River defeating them in the championship game coming in after they beat Glens Ferry in the first round, then they beat Oakley in the second. And that's a big win for Raft River to get back to state. And then Oakley, if you look at Oakley, they lost that first round game in the semifinals to Raft River. They had to go play 3 lose and go home games. If they lost any of them, they're done. Season over for Oakley. And they were able to fight back and win all 3 of those games. They beat Shoshone, they beat Lighthouse Christian, and then they knocked off the top-seeded Murtaugh Red Devils. So big win for them coming into this game. And you look at the Oakley roster, and you just see names that breed success, right? You see Jones. You see
Beck.
Yeah, Beck. That's the one I was looking for. Beck. You see Bedkeys. You see the names that Oakley's won back-to-back state championships in football, who they've ironically knocked off Raft River in both of those. So these two, not only conference foes, but postseason foes across multiple sports. So really, that's going to be a good, fun first-round matchup where you get 2, I would say bitter rivals, right, in the first round. I think if you ask either one of those teams, what's the one team you want to beat this year, they're going to say the other, right? They want to beat each other, and to have it in the first round, that's a great treat for us.
Yes, for sure. Hey, a couple of comments have come across here, Logan. Nicole Farkas, the head coach of the Wallace Lady Miners. Woohoo! Let's go, Lady Miners. We are excited. We're excited for the people of Wallace and the community to have a chance here at state. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's a great community. It's a beautiful town up there, Wallace, right there in the Silver Valley. I think that stretch right there from Kellogg through Wallace and Mullen might be the nicest drive that you can ever go on there on I-90. But beautiful country, and happy for them to come down. Should be, like I said, I really think that they're going to cause some problems for Butte County in that first round game.
Definitely. Diana Jones in here as well. Where are the Timberlake Tigers this year? Well, they're the 3A power traditionally, but they did not make it to state. They lost that play-in game to Weiser last Saturday. So the first time in a long time that Timberlake will not be participating at state. That was another team that Wallace played this year. And so that's a quality opponent that got them ready for the postseason. Hey, let's take a look at our players to watch here at the 1A D1 state tournament. And Diana asking, did they have any good players? Yeah, they did. They had a lot of good players. It was actually a surprise that Timberlake did not make it to state. But credit to Weiser, held them, I think, to 23 points in that loss. So let's take a look at our 1A D1 players to watch. And again, this is not an exhaustive list by any means, just a starting point. If you don't see your favorite player on here, give them a shout out in the comments. Kaia Mcafee from Butte County. She does it all. She is the leading scorer. She's either 1 or 2 in scoring, rebounding, and assists for the undefeated Butte County Pirates. Grace Sabota of Lapway. Of course, they had Glory Sabota in more recent times. Grace is the next in line. Ainsley Johnson of Liberty Charter, great player. Sierra Pugh from Notice. Fallon Bedke, she's, I think, the X factor because she's got size where a lot of teams don't have size. And she's a great volleyball player for Oakley as well. Kristen Wemhoff leads the guard attack for Prairie. Caroline Schumann is the center for Raft River. And Jaden House from Wallace. Not a lot of people have heard of Jaden House, but she's going to become, this is going to be a bad pun, she'll become a household name, I think, by the end of state because Jaden House is a very talented player. I'm excited to see her in person for Wallace. So, a lot of great names, like you mentioned. I think Grace Sabota, like you said, you had Glory Sabota before, and this is just an example of Lapway just reloading, right? Okay, Glory's gone. All right, let's just move Grace up and she'll plug in here. I mean, you can throw in any of these players for Lapway as well, and they're so balanced. You look at the Lapway scoring, and they are balanced. Anybody can lead it on any night. I look on the other side. If you look at Prairie with Wemhoff, she has experience in the state championship game. Prairie has been to the state championship 2 years in a row. Last year they lost to Grace. The year before to Lapway. You know that Prairie team is looking to finally get that monkey off the back and win the state championship. You look at their roster. Tara Schlater has been there.
Delaney Lockett, Kristen Wimhoff. They're a loaded team in Prairie that has the experience. But like you said, will be fun to see Jaden House. Will be fun to see Pugh from Notice. Ainsley Johnson filling in. But we saw a big gap for Liberty Charter this year when they lost Madison Hodnett, and wondered how will Liberty Charter react to that? How will they make up the loss of such a – I mean, she was a triple-double machine. I don't know if she ever actually had a triple-double. She was on the verge. She averaged a double-double, and for Liberty Charter to get back in there, you know, they had to replace a lot in her. And so Ainsley Johnson, a big part of that. So a lot of great players here on this list. And then, like you said, a lot of great players that aren't on this list that we can only pick one, right? So should be a great, fun tournament, and should be very fun to see.
Yeah, for sure. We are getting questions about Timberlake still. Dang, the Tigers were fun to watch. Yeah, they had real quick. Diana was also asking, you know, who some of their standout players were. Sierra Sumis was a great junior guard for Timberlake this year. They also had McKenna Cronenberg, the 5'7" senior, who was outstanding as well. So that's Timberlake, unfortunately not at state. The 1A D1 state tournament, I think, is going to come down to Lapway and Prairie and Butte County, I think, meet up in that other semifinal. Those are the top three to me. But
if those two meet, I'll take the Pirates again.
Yes. This boy, maybe Wallace wins out of this bracket just because they're not the Pirates. That can only
right. Yeah, I know they're the odd man out, right? Miners and then three Pirates all right there in a bunch.
For sure. You mentioned Tara Schlater for Prairie. She averages a double-double. I think it's like 14 and 11, 14 points, 11 rebounds per game. Real quick, let's talk about Notice. Because Notice won their district, but because it was a weaker district, they only get the 6th seed in terms of Max Prep's ranking at state. They've got a lot of good guards, Victoria Ortega, and we talked about Sierra Pugh. And Notice, kind of like in football, the same thing happened to their football team this year, right, Logan, where they won their conference, but we weren't sure how good the conference overall was. And so I think they're carrying the torch not just for their school, but for their conference as well, to try and get some more respect compared to like the White Pine League, for example.
Right. And I mean, that's been a story the last couple of years. You've seen some tough first round matchups for teams from District 3, coming in. You've also seen some good wins. But last year, you know, Rimrock took 3rd, I believe, at the tournament. Rimrock, a team that was a second away from being here instead of Liberty Charter. So, you know, there's something to be said of teams. You look at like Lapway, right? District 2, it's pretty heavy Lapway Prairie. And then there's kind of a drop. Maybe they're not playing. I think the middle of District 3 might be better than the middle up north, right? Or I don't know if that's true, but it's just something to think about, that maybe, you know, playing teams that are really beating up on each other every night in and out, and, you know, going 500 records, really even competition, that maybe that lends itself to be more beneficial when you get into a state tournament environment where you're playing good teams too, and it's going to be a battle. So who knows? We'll see what happens. I agree with you. I think it's going to be Lapway Prairie. And I don't know. We'll see. I think you got to think Prairie is sick of losing that state championship game, right? You just got to think that they don't want to become the early 90s Buffalo Bills and go year in and year out and not make it. And, you know, Coach Maders has been around the block enough, and I don't know, maybe it's time for Prairie to break through recently, right? They definitely, like you said, won plenty of state championships, not a stranger to that, but recently it's been Lapway. Last year was Grace, and the year before Lapway. So we'll see what happens. I think you might see a conference matchup in the state championship. Yeah,
Lapway coach Ada Marks cut her teeth on the club circuit, coached all of these players kind of at AAU, and then at the JV levels, and now the varsity coach in her 3rd season, has done a tremendous job. Butte County, you mentioned Grace won the title last year. Butte County defeated Grace at districts. It was the first time this group of seniors, they start 5 seniors, and their 6th man, Savannah Bird, transferred from Alaska. She came in from Alaska during the season. In Alaska, she had to take a boat to every game. That's how far away the competition was. So this group of 6 seniors, or really 5 seniors that start for Butte County, had never beaten Grace at districts. but they do in their senior year. The last time Butte County beat Grace to get to state, because only one team gets to go from that district, it was 2018. Butte County won the whole thing that year. So just saying that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, I think you're probably going to, I don't know. I think Butte County is going to have a tough game Thursday night. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think Prairie is going to come in, and that's just what I think. I don't know what's going to happen, and I would love to be wrong. Butte County, like I said, they're undefeated. No one's beat them this year, so who am I to say that they're going to lose? I think that game, that game could be a state championship game. Like, it would be if those two were playing on Saturday at the Idaho Center, it would be a great championship game. I'll just leave it at that. I think both phenomenal teams. It's a shame somebody's going to have to lose in the semifinals, but that's just the way it is.
Yep. All right. Logan Green, I'll see you Thursday morning. You and I are going to be on the call for all the 1A D1 state tournament action live and free of charge on IdahoSports.com. Thanks for doing this, Logan.
Yeah. If I'm missing, if anybody just hears you, it's my wife is actually due on Monday. So if I, in the middle of a broadcast, just leave, it's not because I don't like your team. It's because I have to go meet my wife at the hospital, which will be fun, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay. Logan, thanks for stopping by. We're going to take a break and then finish it up with the 1A D2 preview with Gary Jones. So stay tuned for that. You're watching the 2022 Idaho High School Girls State Basketball Tournament Preview Special. We'll be back right after this break on IdahoSports.com.
Every day, people are choosing to buy Idaho. It's an easy choice. There are quality Idaho-grown companies for almost any product or service you need. Buying Idaho means keeping our money in Idaho, and that boosts our local economy. If everyone living here just spent $100 with Idaho businesses, we would generate over $9 million in tax revenue to help improve our state. Look for the logo and help support our Idaho businesses, because Buy Idaho builds Idaho.
All right, welcome back to our State Girls Basketball Tournament Preview Special. Brandon Bainey joined by Gary Jones. We have saved the best for last. It's the 1A D2 Girls State Basketball Tournament. I know this, Gary, because I called the 1A D2 State Basketball Tournament last year for the girls, and I had an absolute blast. This is going to be a lot of fun, Gary.
Yeah, well, those little schools, the littlest ones in any state, they live and breathe and die by their sports and high school teams. And sometimes we've seen an A1, D2 team have more people in their pep club at state than a 4 and a 5A. And I'm not exaggerating. They love their teams. And so I love the little schools. I appreciate doing this bracket here.
For sure. They've got some of the most diehard fans. And so if you're a fan and you're watching this on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, or our Twitter account, leave a comment for us. Ask us a question, call us dumb for something we said, give your favorite team or player a shout out, and we'll put your comment up on the screen. But let's start with the bracket, Gary. I'm going to put the bracket up on the screen here. You've got Rockland, the number 1 seed overall. They won state 2 years ago, got tripped up in the semifinals last year. They're taking on Cary as the 8 seed. We're used to seeing Cary at state. We're not used to seeing them as the 8 seed necessarily. This is the first year where it's seeded according to Max Prep's rankings. The 4-5 is Kendrick and Deary, district rivals from the White Pine League. Then you've got number 3 Richfield against number 6 Ledor, and the 2 seed Council. They went undefeated against number 7 Tri-Valley, the defending 1A D2 champs. Another conference matchup in the opening round. What stands out to you right away, Gary?
Well, what stands out to me is that Rockland and Council, most people would argue, are the number 1 and 2 seed. They're ranked that way in the media. They're ranked that way on Max Prep. They're ranked that way on Idaho Sports Power Rankings. And by the record, Rockland's 21-1 and 14-0, and the Lumberjacks haven't lost yet. They're 16-0 and 8-0. Now, I've been doing this a long time, and in the past, because the IHSAA would just make an arbitrary bracket, and rotate it, we saw teams like this meet in the first round. And that's a shame. They should always be on opposite sides of the bracket. Now, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to both win or anything, but at least the bracket is set up. Now, I've criticized IHSAA before for not seeding basketball. And I want to take my hat off to them now and thank them. Now, maybe there's some bugs in the system from Max Prep because of whatever. There's a lot of it's a long issue. I won't go into it right now. But at least they're seeing it somehow. And so the other thing that stands out about this bracket to me is that two teams are in trouble. Council is playing Tri-Valley. They're in the same league. They've already beaten Tri-Valley twice by considerable margin. And I thought I had it written here somewhere. But and the same thing's true with Deary. Deary is playing Kendrick, and I think Kendrick's beaten them 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 40-35, 45-29, and 48-14. Now, those games are fairly close, and it's hard to beat a good team 3 times, let alone 4. But on paper, you would see them advancing right away. And then Rockland playing Cary. The only dangerous thing about that is Cary is always good in every sport. I've been in Idaho since 81 and coaching at New Plymouth for 30 years, or I taught there 32 years, coached half of them. Every time I look up and read the paper, I don't care if it's volleyball, basketball, wrestling. I don't know what Cary puts in their water, but does anybody go to state more times than them?
For sure. You've got a lot of good, really solid coaches. Vern Nelson at Rockland, Marilee Sears at Cary, Ron Ireland at Kendrick, Buck Hendren at Richfield, Paula Tucker at Council. She was the longtime coach and athletic director at Salmon River. She moved over to Council this year, took the volleyball team to state, took the basketball team to state. No matter where she goes, she just seems to win.
Now, I can speak on Paula because I know her from years of covering Idaho sports. She was at Garden Valley, too, and she won a state championship with the Garden Valley girls. But for all you people that have ever coached in your life, let me tell you a story about Paula Tucker. 1 year at Garden Valley, she coached the men's and the women's basketball team. Now, if you've ever done a sport in high school and go to all those practices and you go to district and you go – if there's so much pressure and tension on you and there's so much time involved with kids, it's a great job. I loved it. But I can't imagine doing 2 basketball teams in one season. And the number of practices that lady went to, the number of games she went to, I don't know if anybody's ever done that in the history of basketball in Idaho, but that lady did it, and my hat's off to her. She also coached with Bobby Hazeltine at Walla Walla Community College for a couple of years as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Gary, you were talking about earlier tipping your hat to the IHSEA. You're getting some nice comments about your hat. Glenn Jones says, nice hat. Scott Burton says, go Rams, Gary.
Well, Scott and Glenn and I are as happy as puppies in a room full of rubber balls because I'm going to be 70 soon, and the Rams had never won a Super Bowl in LA in my life. And so that was a very important win yesterday. And I got to share with my brother, Glenn, who I love very much. So plus I won some money in a football pool. So it was the perfect day. And now we got the perfect time coming up at IdahoSports.com. I missed the last 2 years because of COVID. I haven't been with you guys since 19. I miss y'all. And I can't tell you how happy I am to be back in the saddle with you guys.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you back in the fold, Gary. I totally get, you got to put your health first, especially when the pandemic was at its full crescendo. So it's glad to have you back. Let's take a look at our players to watch here at the 1A D2 level. We picked one player from each team. And again, this is just a jumping off point. So if you've got a player or a team that you want to give a shout out to, leave it in the comments. We'll throw it up on the screen. But here's our 1A D2 players to watch. Bernice Vargas. She's been a varsity contributor for a couple of years now for Cary and now kind of one of the leaders of the team. Sydney Nichols, such a great athlete at Council. Araya Wood from Deary, great shooter. Erin Morgan, she's a tremendous center that plays inside for Kendrick. Sadie Bird of Ledor, returning all-conference player from a year ago. Casey Hendren, the great lead guard for Richfield. Kearsley Boyer from Rockland. She's going to be a lot of fun, Gary. I compare her game a lot to Kevin Durant in terms of she's kind of long and lean and can shoot it from the outside, but she can also beat you on the dribble. And then Marin Hanson for Tri-Valley. She was one of the key players off the bench last year for the state champions and now is into a starting role. So this is a good list of players here. And again, like I said, we could have went 2 or 3 deep on each of these teams.
And the Boyer girl from Rockland, she's led her team to a 21-1 record this year. So out of 22 games, only lost 1 game, and that was to Raft River. She's averaging 14 points a game and 12 rebounds. She's got averaging a double-double. She's got some teammates like Emma Farr that are 11.8 points per game, 10.7 rebounds. And then the other big team in the state, Council, with the best undefeated record, Sydney Nichols averaging 11.3 points per game. And they have 3 players almost at double figures. Hope Zolman is 10.2 and Iverson 9.5. So, you know, the one thing I'm gonna tell you, on paper it looks like it's going to be either the Rockland or the Lumberjacks. But here's what I would tell: if I was a coach for any of the other schools, here's what I'd tell them: the number 1 seed doesn't always win. I just happened to surf something real quick today before we come on the air, and this has astounded me. This is all stats since 2002. These are teams in all the professional leagues that were the number 1 seed in the regular season. And in baseball, that's after 160 games or more. And how many of them got to the World Series or the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, or the hockey finals? In NFL, the number 1 seed got to the Super Bowl 53% of the time. In the NBA, they got there 32% of the time. I can't understand this. Hockey, you would think it'd be a little higher. The number 1 seed got to the Stanley Cup 19% of the time. And Major League Baseball got to the World Series 29% of the time. There's only one of those above 50%, and it's football. So it doesn't matter if Rockland's 21-1 and you're 10-7. If you play better than them in that game and win, the records are out the window. I mean, here's who's going to win state: the team that plays the best 3 consecutive games. And it might be the team with the best record, might be the team with the second best record. It could be Deary, and I think the story of Deary, the reason I put them on that, they are starting, or I don't know who they're starting, but I got their roster. Out of 9 players, they have 3 8th graders on their roster. And they don't have any seniors, if I'm not mistaken. Talk about a team that's building for the future, but I don't know that I've ever seen an 8th grader. I know it's legal at the state level. There are 3 of them out of 9 players. A third of the team is 8th graders, and yet they're 15-5 overall, and they came in second league behind Kendrick, 8-2. They have a very good record, and they're doing it with a lot of young people. But if you think experience is going to win, then Rockland's been to state 8 out of 10 times. They won it 2 years ago, and the defending champs, of course, are the Titans. But they have to get through council, and that's going to be a rough bill for them.
Yeah, Tri-Valley lost almost everybody in terms of starters and contributors from last year. I'll tell you the team that I like, Gary, to win. This is my winner pick. I've got on the bottom half of the bracket, I've got Council and Richfield, and I've got Council advancing to state. The danger with Richfield is they can slow a game down and make it physical and play in the 20s, and they like that. That is their style. And when you play that style, that can lead to some upsets. So I think Council could have their hands full with Richfield just because they're physical and they don't mind playing in the 20s, and they're totally okay with that. But on the top half of the bracket, I've got Rockland and Kendrick, and I've got Kendrick not only advancing to the championship, but winning the championship. I saw this team. I saw this team at state last year, and they got all the way to the championship against Tri-Valley and were a bad quarter away from winning state last year with no seniors on their team. They didn't have a single senior. So all of those players are back this year. They've got Erin Morgan inside. Hannah Tweet is a great perimeter shooter. They've got so many great guards, and they like to press as well and get out in transition. And so just going off of what I saw last year from Kendrick, and then knowing all of those players are back, I like their chances a lot. Now, Rockland, of course, is going to be very tough. But I've had Kendrick as number 1 in my personal poll all year, and that's where I'm leaning. And again, like I said, on that bottom half of the bracket, Richfield, I think, could cause some problems just because of the style that they play. But Ledore is a team that's also gotten hot. They're a team that was kind of considered an afterthought in their conference this year. They were in the middle of the standings in the middle of the year, and all of a sudden got hot at the right time. So that bottom half of the bracket is intriguing to me.
And the one pick for Kendrick, you're picking them. This is their 4th year in a row to state.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of experience. Because in the long run, the other thing I look at is how many juniors and seniors do you have? Because in my estimation, seniors beat juniors and juniors beat sophomores and sophomores beat freshmen, generally speaking. And so if you can load up a team with, like if you say you had 5 seniors starting, man, you're golden if you're good. One thing about Rockland, as I wrote down the seniors and juniors, they actually have the total most. They have 2 seniors and 6 juniors. So they've got 8 kids with a lot of basketball experience. But once again, you got to paper. It looks good on paper, you know, but they don't play basketball games on paper. They play it on wood. And so I'm really looking forward to the passion of the A1, D2 fans, though. So that's why I'm like Paul Kingsbury. I am not going to pick anybody. As an announcer, I just don't like picking because I'm not rooting for anybody. I'm rooting for good games, and I'm going to get excited no matter who scores. I would say, you know, on paper, Rockland Council should be there at 9:30 when we do the state championship game. Yeah, but I somehow should be in a beach in Hawaii with, you know, an umbrella in my drink. But so you just got to go out there and see what's going to happen. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure, Gary. Those pre-tournament predictions very rarely come to fruition. The buzz around the 1A D2 last year was, oh, yeah, it's going to be Cary and Rockland. And guess what? It was Tri-Valley and Kendrick. So, you never know how it's going to shake out, right?
But I do like the fact we are finally seeding the tournament. And what I would like to do is have a human being overlook the computer after it's done. And so they get the final say. So you can correct a mistake that the computer can't foresee in its algorithm. But I'll take whatever method they're going to do, because you're never going to end up with the 2 best teams playing each other in the first round. Probably. I mean, the chances of that are very slight.
Yes, it's a lot better than what we used to have. That's for sure. There's still some kinks to work out, but we've come a long way in the state of Idaho. That's for sure. So, hey, big thanks to everybody who hung with us tonight, whether you're a 5A fan or you popped in for the 3A conversation, or maybe you're a real diehard and you just sat through an hour and 36 minutes of basketball talk. Thanks for being with us tonight on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and our Twitter account. We're going to put this in all of our podcast feeds for the week as well. So if you weren't able to be here live tonight, you'll see that appearing in whatever podcast you listen to: Magic Valley, Treasure Valley, SIC, North Idaho, East Idaho, whatever prepcast you listen to each week. We're gonna put this preview special into your feed, so you'll be able to listen to it that way. And don't forget, every single game at the 2022 Girls State Basketball Tournaments, totally live, totally free, totally on IdahoSports.com.
And Brad, if I can say one more thing, Super Saturday, 6 games, and they don't make you leave like they do in the other things, an afternoon and an evening session. You can get there at 9:30 for the first game. 1 ticket price will get you watching 6 state championship games right in a row. It's a wonderful day. So if you can get to the Fort Idaho Center, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't make it, hey, next best thing is hanging with us on IdahoSports.com. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this state tournament preview special. Good luck to all of the girls and all of the coaches and all of the competitors. It's going to be a lot of fun. For Gary Jones and everybody that we had tonight, Wayne Dzubak, Scott Burton, Glenn Jones, Paul Kingsbury, Logan Green, and, of course, Gary Jones. I'm Brandon Baney. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you at state. It's IdahoSports.com.